Part 15. The thunder roared closer, still closer. Rat lay still until the garbage had finished shifting. She was blind now, her hearing barely functioning. The din from above was too great. Something foul pressed against her lips. All she had was her sense of touch. The weight of the garbage wasn't overwhelming. She tried to move, to twist her body so that she might crawl ahead. As she shifted her legs, the weight shifted as well, and the sediments of debris parted again. Rat screamed this time as she plunged deeper into the refuse, the horrible motion abrupt, but quickly over. "Rat!" She heard his, Sparky? Voice. "Rat, you have to respond." She tightened her lips, her eyelids. "Ears can't help you, but I can," Bort whispered. Rat tried to move, but her legs were pinned. "Rat, you're above an ejectable waste disposal pod. If I can open the airlock, it might be a way." Tears squeezed from her closed eyes, and she could no longer hold back. "Sparky, please." The sobs. "Can you secure your oxygen reserves?" Bort asked. Rat struggled to free her good arm enough to edge it down, over her thigh, and behind. With each motion, the burden of the refuse that trapped her pressed with renewed urgency. Her ribs, her back ached with every stolen breath. "Signal me if you can." Her hands stretched, fingers burrowing through the trash, until the smooth, unyielding contours of the oxygen tanks defined themselves. Bort's, Sparky's, voice was strained. "No more time! It's Kicker! The bug's coming down, the acid!" She pressed her palm against the oxygen reserve and began to cry. "Rat! Speak up! There's no time!" She wanted, sorry, to say it, loved you, so that he would know. The rain became a torrent as the thunder exploded, as the monsters slithered through the waste and reached, love, for her, you. Her ears ruptured as the pressure suddenly gave, and the mass that contained her shifted, plunged, and was swallowed whole. Bort tried to maintain the tenuous link between himself and Rat. The waste disposal unit had contained her, and she was safe for the moment as Shitkicker plunged through another deck and into the refuse conduit. "Ears, can you read Rat's vital signs still?" Ears was screaming, unintelligible now. "Ears!" Tearing at his face, his head shrieking. Kicker was still visible, the acid blood washing over him, burning into him as the garbage dissolved and plunged him towards the waste disposal pod. Bort ignored the howling and thrashing on Ears' monitor. Ears, held by double-thumbed talons, a ribbed bolt plunging into the circuitry of his face. "Rat!" She couldn't hear him, as Ears and his many heads howled like the damned. On his monitor, Ears transfixed by the lethal tongue. Bort cursed and activated the ejection of the waste disposal unit. He wept as he trusted her to oblivion, watching the tiny silver unit jettison from the base of the station. Rat was suddenly free of the refuse's burden. For a split second, the din ceased as her ears popped with the extreme pressure change. In the same instant, the sensation of the nauseating plunge had become that of drifting, dreamlike and dissonant. Her urge was to curl up, like a fetus in the womb, but her fingers maintained their grip on the oxygen reserve tanks. A new gravity imposed itself as Rat was flung headlong into the void. The rest were gone, all gone. Rat's screen, ominously black, leaders mere static. Even Shitkicker was gone, ejected with Rat's pod. His screen exploded with flames, sulfur, garbage, and shattered armor before flickering into midnight, as would they all. Bort maintained. Amid the shitstorm, he alone maintained. All that mattered now was that they had won. Bort flicked Point's monitor onto the big screen. Kotlo was the key. Point had smeared him just as something, the newborn queen, had begun to emerge from his chest. But it had happened so quickly, he had to be sure. Bort replayed Point's monitor. Despite the blur of motion and subsequent shuddering, he could see Kotlo thrown back by the impact of the shot to his shoulder. He was hurled back, slamming into something dark that seemed to collapse. But what was it? Bort replayed it again. Kotlo lurching into view, something under his shirt. He zoomed in on Kotlo's shirt, where a small wriggling mass appeared beneath the fabric. And again, Kotlo's head and shoulder splashing, his body thrown akimbo against a door, the sign overhead. Bort froze the image and zoomed in closer. The sign came into focus, reading DANGERWASTEDISPO. Bort's knuckles and lips were taut and white. "Waste disposal unit," he croaked. The monitors were suddenly flashing as Toddlab LXI routinely ejected a second medical waste disposal container from its dark side. The implosion devices whirred to life, and the countdown began. The failsafe trigger screamed its warning into the command module. Its sensors detected an alien life form leaving the station. The second waste disposal unit, Kotlo's, raced the outer perimeter of the implosion's range. The seed, still struggling to escape, Bort choked with laughter. "The implosion device, Kotlo, you asshole! Its detonation will suck the pod back into its vortex. Die, Hellspawn, die!" Bort's eyes slid from the damned unit containing Kotlo and the seed to the unit the station had jettisoned seconds before by his own hand. Rat. Her escape route paralleled Kotlo's, both silvery orbs spinning away from the station like mercurial globes. Bort's eyes burned with tears. She would die in fire, die in nothingness, the oblivion her father had condemned her to since birth. She was right. Life held nothing but pain and fear and darkness, all-consuming darkness. Infinitesimal against the girth of the station, 4 lights flashed from the fail-safe units. The baby boomer blinked away its final seconds. A final glimmer, and the 4 implosion units would detonate. Bort's features darkened, tears running over creased scar tissue as he guided the command ship out of the station's orbit. The expanse of the station was cleared in seconds as the ship rushed to follow the 2 silver waste units. He hoped the command ship was large enough with force fields at full capacity to block the force of the detonation, perhaps give Rat precious seconds to clear the vortex of the all-consuming implosion. He kept his eyes fixed on the furthest of the 2, for that was where his heart lay, with the devil between them. She should clear the perimeter of the implosion. If he were fleet and massive enough, she would escape its reach. She might. As Shipkicker bathed, laughing in geysers of acid, Point pitched forward, trailing splintered marrow. Ears, white eyes stared unseeing at the last sights beheld by his many heads. Bort's howl tore at their ears until it, and all about it, was devoured by an all-consuming sun that raged, whimpered, and collapsed into nothingness. The silver egg held her, shielded her. Rat coiled herself in the center of the unit, nestled in its refuse-lined interior. Her breathing was shallow, barely fogging the mask that cupped her face. Her mind was lost in herself. Sparky? In the comforting, "Daddy can't see me now," darkness. The oxygen reserve would last for a short time, a precious short time. Perhaps it would last until oblivion spread its arms and welcomed her home. Perhaps it could afford the lifespan of a kitten, or a boy, or that of a dream. She sighed and resigned herself for the first time to life, however brief, without fear. The silver egg would protect her.